Hey there, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Jason Boyer here in the Skywatch Weather Center in Asheville, North Carolina. If you're watching from somewhere else, I want to get you an update on what we're seeing in terms of the new data coming in for the computer models here this late evening. It is Wednesday, January 21st, and we are expecting a major winter storm across all of these locations. I mean, look how many states we're talking about. There's a dozen or more states that will experience a significant impact from the weekend winter storm. So let's get right to it and kind of lay out some details for you and see how this is going to progress. So we have weather warned days going for our region here in the Western Carolinas for good reason. We're talking the potential for not only a high impact winter storm, but more specifically ice and ice accumulations likely to cause delays and even closures into the weekend and even beyond. So power and travel likely affected here in a big way with this system coming through. Let's take a look at some of the scenarios. Scenario number one is like a track number one. That is more of an inland track if the system does come more to the north rather than pushing east and then north. That would be more of a warmer solution in terms of the scenarios, and we'd have more mixing to rain and eventually less ice would be a bigger deal and we'd have more rain, and that would be a good thing overall. But we're thinking we're leaning somewhere in between that scenario and what would be a snowier track. If the system stayed south, we'd have more cold air locked in and more moisture would be snow instead of ice. Problem is, we're thinking it's going to be that number two track, that scenario that is more of an icier track. The main energy does go inland, but not far enough north, and we still have enough cold air in place to cause some bigger issues. So let's play this out, and this is a idea of just a scenario that could play out for many. It's the European model, and you notice it's a lot of pink. That is an icy mix of freezing rain and sleet, and that expands rapidly eastward into Saturday. The onset or the beginning of all of this is probably going to be sometime by Saturday afternoon here in the mountains, and then maybe a little later in the day for some of you down over the upstate. If you're farther east into Greensboro, Charlotte, Raleigh, probably late afternoon, early evening. On Saturday will be the onset or beginning of the precipitation for you. And it does look like a lot of sleet could be falling in areas of the Piedmont. So the I-77 corridor into Charlotte, North, Hickory, Statesville, over to Greensboro, and the Triad, the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, probably getting a sleet storm to begin, and then maybe more a transition toward freezing rain later in the storm on Sunday. But a lot of ice potential for the upstate of South Carolina, especially north of I-85 and into Asheville and many mountain locations that will extend along I-40 into Tennessee. The hope is that we get a little bit of this warming. You see the transition over to rain sometime into Sunday, pre-dawn for some of us west into the Tennessee Valley. The hope is that we get that push of warmer air above, and it can work down and change it over to rain for the Tennessee Valley and some of our mountains west of Asheville. It's no guarantee at this point because we have a lot of time to watch this evolve. That would be a good scenario overall, though, if we could get the transition to rain and move out of the freezing rain and sleet scenarios. This is not looking like a snowstorm for much of North and South Carolina. I mean, there might be some snow on the front end of the storm early, but it is not going to be big. In terms of the accumulations, it's going to be minor, if anything, and this is really more of an ice scenario, unfortunately, which can cause some big problems if it's freezing rain, obviously. Sleet is another story. Sleet, you can still move around, brush off a car, and even plow off the roads, but freezing rain, it coats everything, and you can't move it around, can't do anything but just wait for it to melt. So the Western Carolinas at this point, as of now with the data we have a high impact for freezing rain, and we have a moderate impact, but a growing impact from sleet. Could be moving that to the high side. But again, the impacts will be overall greater if it does become more freezing rain. Snow, pretty low impact at this point, and the power and travel impacts, well, they'll be high. Obviously, we could be losing power in places, and we could also obviously have big concerns for traveling anywhere around our region and even beyond that into areas like the Virginias and Kentucky and the Mid-Atlantic and eventually the Northeast. Here's the best timeline we think right now for this winter storm here in the mountains. We think it's Asheville, Weaverville area of Buncombe County. That's kind of the more populated area of Buncombe County. We're thinking we're going to see an onset of the precipitation sometime around 7 to noon Saturday. It probably starts as maybe some snow briefly. That's a pretty narrow window, and then it gets right into sleet. See all that? That's sleet, that orange, and it could be a lot of sleet in our area. Then at the end of it, once things start to wrap up later in the day, Sunday could be some freezing rain, changing to maybe a brief period of rain, but really freezing rain might be our concern later on Sunday. The Burnsville, Spruce Pine area, now we're up into the higher elevations north of Asheville. Some snow on the beginning of it, but a good swath of sleet, a time frame here between about noon Saturday and maybe as much as 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night Saturday, still sleet. And then you get into the freezing rain, and that window of freezing rain is a little lengthier for you, which could cause some more concerns for power outages up there. And on the tail end of the storm, it might be a brief period of some snow before it wraps up Sunday evening. Canton and Waynesville, we're west of Asheville now, getting closer to the Smokies, but you're looking at a little bit of snow the beginning of it Saturday, some brief period of sleet, and then a lot of freezing rain. That's my concern for you out there in Haywood County. Freezing rain could be an extended period of time for you. Maybe a little rain on the tail end of it. And then Brevard, Hendersonville, this is south and southwest of Asheville. Again, more of a sleet opportunity down here with a period of some freezing rain, possibly rain to end. Bryson City and Franklin, now we're well southwest of Asheville, closer to Tennessee and Georgia. There's a large window of sleet potential, and I should say freezing rain potential. That's the pink. So freezing rain would be our big concern for you there in the southwestern valleys. Marion and Old Fort, we're now east on I-40 of Asheville. Brief period of some snow at the onset, sometime in the late afternoon, early evening Saturday. Brief period of sleet, then a period of freezing rain, then back to sleet. All right, a lot of things going on there. Same goes for you in the foothills. We're closer to, halfway between Asheville and the Charlotte area for Rutherfordton and Tryon. We're looking at a period of some snow, maybe the beginning of the storm for you Saturday, later in the day. Brief period of sleet, more freezing rain, then back to sleet. All right, that's a lot, folks. Obviously, the impacts will be our story. Power outages, travel difficulties, you bet. Delays, closures, you bet. This will carry over into Monday next week and maybe even beyond if we see some places stay with the ice on ground or on surfaces, as temperatures aren't expected to get very warm in the wake of the storm. In fact, they're probably going to get colder into Monday. That's your update for now. Please keep abreast of the situation with us. Prepare now for the worst and hope for the best. Get yourself ready, get your car ready, get your family ready, and be ready to hunker down and just kind of ride this out. If you don't have to travel this weekend, it's not recommended you do. And if you have plans to travel, make plans to change those plans, okay? Travel plans should be adjusted accordingly because of this situation. All right, that's the update for now. Keep coming back. We'll have more for you on WLOS and, of course, YouTube, Facebook, and all other modes of social media.